The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
Are things changing under Aaron Glenn? We'll talk with someone who's been on the Jets beat for a decade about what could be different under AG. It's the Jake Asman Show. Let's hit it and get it started. Man, our Jets are primed to win another offseason, baby. We bleed Jets green each and every day. Will the playoff drought finally end? Kings of the offseason, baby. This is what we do. At least we have Garrett Wilson. We have Brees Hall. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super chat, baby. Cut the line. We have Sauce Gardner. We have Quinn Williams. Prepare to be underdogs. Now it's time to talk all things New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show. Here we go, show number 2 on the day. Before we bring on our guest, Andy Vasquez, who covers the New York Jets. Reminder, patreon.com/Jake Asman Show. Join the Discord. You get access to our private Discord when you join the Patreon. I misspoke. Join the Patreon so you can get in on the Discord. You get bonus shows, your name in the intro, access to exclusive events, including a discount on your hotel room in Tampa if you're making the trip, plus limited group buy tickets for Jets Bucks in week 3, merch store discounts, and a whole lot more. Plus, when you sign up for the year, you get 10 raffle tickets. So shout out to listener Lou, who joined the Patreon for the full year earlier today. He saved 15% and he gets 10 tickets in our weekly AsManiac raffle. With that said, let's say hello to a first-time guest, although I've had him on the radio in the past. Andy Vasquez joins us now. Andy, you've been covering the New York Jets. We were talking off air for 10 seasons. This will be year number 10 on the Jet Beat. You've been there every single day throughout OTAs. You've been there through minicamp. So I want to get into all that with you, but can you give us the backstory, how you got on the beat? Because this is the first time we've had you on here on the YouTube show.
Yeah, so first, it's not my fault, everything that's happened. But yeah, they haven't had a winning season. Started in 2016. I covered the Nets. I used to work at the Record, cover the Nets for 5 years. Their last year in Jersey, their first 4 in Brooklyn, and I covered golf over there too. And one of the last tournaments I covered there was Oakmont U.S. Open in 2016, and then the PGA was later that year at Baltusrol, and that happened to be my first week on the Jets beat. So it was intense. And I've seen a lot of coaches. I guess this is my 4th now. Am I doing the math right? 3rd, 4th? So yeah, 4th. Seen a lot of quarterbacks. I was there for some of the Christian Hackenberg throws in OTAs, and that did get to the sideline. So you had to have your head on a swivel. Yeah, it's been quite a ride. And yes, things are different. I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's always hope springs eternal with a new coach and a new GM, and it's hard to tell what's real, and we really won't know until September. But I do think some things are different that are promising, and I'd be excited about that if I was a Jets fan. But also I understand why Jets fans are going to be cautious about this, because it's been a rough 10 years, and I grew up a Lions fan, so I understand where Jets fans are coming from, and I know that it's not a lot of fun to set your Sundays aside and have to put up with some of the stuff you guys have had to put up with. So I will say I'm probably the most empathetic beat writer, because I've been in your shoes, and it's weird to be on this side of it.
And especially now when you look at the Lions in the NFL and where Glenn's coming from. So it can be done, as they have proven, if you get the right people in charge. So you're, of course, now with NJ.com. Everyone can follow you on Twitter as well, at Andy_Vasquez. We'll go through some of your craziest memories being on this beat for a decade a bit later. But you mentioned it at the top there that you've noticed some things that you think are a little different already under Aaron Glenn. Give us your thoughts, the wide lens view on some of the things that have really stood out being around Glenn, being around this team throughout the offseason program.
I just think the fact that he's very clear about his expectations and what he wants out of his players. And I think it's interesting if you go back to the whole Jamal Adams situation. He spoke, on Spaces a few weeks ago about the breakup and Joe Douglas and how he never interacted with Joe Douglas, and that was kind of a regret of his. And there's obviously an argument that why didn't the GM pick up the phone in that situation? I know it's complicated when you're dealing with, contracts and agents and all that stuff, but um, why didn't Adam Gase, why didn't Joe Douglas pick up the phone? And then you look at the situation with Brees Hall, and he says when all those trade rumors were at their height, he got a call from Aaron Glenn. Now Glenn has an abrasive style, and he asked him a question. Do you think I want to trade you? I mean, it's kind of funny because you get both sides of the personality, but obviously Brees said he walked away from that conversation feeling reassured, and you saw him as a fixture at OTAs. And this is a guy who would have every reason to not want to be there, or potentially like, they made it clear that he's not the guy necessarily anymore. He's going to have to prove it. And then he goes out and says, I should have to prove it. That's just, to me, that's one like very pointed difference. And then just overall, the fact that he's laying out these expectations. When you go back to rookie minicamp, Glenn has made it clear he's not going to tell us exactly what he's communicating with his players. But at rookie minicamp, it's different. Except for the draft picks and a handful of the undrafted free agents, those guys aren't going to be there in the season. And he did communicate with us what he said to the players, and it was a few specific things I can't remember now 6 weeks later, but he went down and everybody there knew what they were looking for, what they were evaluating, and what was expected of them. And I don't think any coach since I've been here did that, in terms of there was always kind of question marks in the locker room or shrugging of shoulders or what is this, or especially with the first two regimes, Todd Bowles and Adam Gase, it felt like it was two different teams. Saleh did a better job with that. He did a good job of improving the culture. Obviously had a lot of shortcomings, but did a good job developing players. And Glenn even thanked the last regime, saying they had a lot of good character guys in here. But he also wasn't afraid to bring in his own guys, kind of reset the leadership, which I thought was important too. So all of that is encouraging. Of course, it's June, so it doesn't matter until something happens. They haven't had any real adversity yet, any adversity. So that's going to be like what I'm interested to see is how does this guy respond. I thought the last day of minicamp was interesting. The last thing I would have expected from a coach like Aaron Glenn was to see, the offensive line out there lining up and catching passes. And I think it kind of shows that he does have, a grasp of the situation and, a different side. So I think he might surprise us when things inevitably, there'll be a rough stretch. I think he might handle it better than people think. It may not be this, the abrasive approach that you're seeing at times with us, which, by the way, I don't mind. I think it's great. I have, no problem a guy going back at me if I don't like a question he asks. It's his prerogative. He's being put on the spot to answer a question in public, and if he doesn't like my question, that's totally fine. So I have no problem with that. I hope, I don't know how the other guys on the beat feel, but I think it's good and it's going to be interesting. So I know that was a lot, but those are just some of the things that popped into my head in terms of dealing with this new regime. And I'm sure as we talk, more will come up.
That's a really good breakdown there. If you're tuning in, we're talking with Andy Vasquez. He's been on the Jets beat for the last 10 years. You can read his work, NJ Advanced Media, NJ.com. And one of the things that you said there, or that you alluded to, you brought up that Brees Hall conversation between he and Glenn. I think we already knew this, but it's yet another example of Aaron Glenn is calling all the shots here. Like, obviously, Darren Muji's the general manager, but Brees straight up said that Glenn told him, what do you think, I'm going to trade you? Like, there's not a single decision that the Jets are making that Aaron Glenn is not overseeing, if that makes sense.
I think, yeah, and I think that's good because he's not in charge of he's not having to do the machinations of the cap and all the stuff. Like, I think it's a problem, like, when you have even Belichick and guys who've been doing this for years running the whole show, you're going to miss stuff, and you saw the Patriots start missing stuff. But like, I think it's good to have the coach like really involved. Like, I don't know if Glenn is at the stage where, he has earned that or whatever, but because he hasn't proven anything as a head coach yet. But
it's just unusual for a first-time coach to have that power,
and that he's so open about it. And it's an arrangement that obviously Muji is comfortable with too. And it's not like, Muji doesn't have a say, but the coach is going to have a say in everything. And I think it's important because ultimately, like, the vision for this team on the field is set by the coach. You have to get the players that he's comfortable with. And, Salah was involved too, but I think it was, you know, there was overruling and stuff, and it could get, more complicated. I mean, I think it is a good thing that he is involved, and I think it's a sign of functionality, and it's also a way to make sure that ownership, isn't as involved, because Glenn is a guy who's going to stand up for himself, and where the last regime, it would be hard, if Woody came in with something. It's hard to see either one of those guys like being like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's easier to see Glenn, finding a way to say that, because he does have kind of an intimidation factor, and like, he played in the league and was very successful, and I think he can use that to his advantage too, in putting his foot down with that stuff.
Well, it's also interesting because if you think about it, like, Aaron Glenn is truly like Woody Johnson's hire. And I know you know this from being around the team. Whether it's fair or not, Woody would basically try and excuse himself from Salah and Douglas because his brother oversaw those hires. Obviously,
Absolutely.
Douglas hired Salah. So Woody's like, well, you can't blame me because these weren't my hires. These are his hires, right? Glenn was his hire. Muji is his hire. And I think it was interesting when Steve Wilkes told you guys at the podium, one of the reasons why he chose to take the Jets DC job is because Aaron Glenn's got a great relationship with ownership. So he felt like it was a stable place to go and coach. I do think we're going to see a hands-off Woody Johnson initially here to let Aaron Glenn do it his way. But then as a Jet fan, you always worry, well, if they don't win, then the old Woody could rear its ugly head again. So what are your thoughts on just the power dynamics of the organization, Woody's involvement, and where we go from here?
Yeah, I think you have seen tons of evidence that he's not involved. Like Zerline being gone for one. I think, he was stuck around a little longer than you wanted, but that's like one of those things where it's like, oh, we paid him this money and for 2 years, and we're just gonna basically let him off the hook after giving him $4 million. That's something that Woody wouldn't have maybe let fly, and it's a reason why Zerline was on the roster as long as he was. But ultimately, they moved on from him. And the fact that they caught all these veterans, and the fact that, obviously, I think it wasn't shocking that Woody and Rodgers, hadn't been on the same page. You could see, I mean, Rodgers was basically telegraphing it the entire last month of the season. So not a surprise that he's gone, or a sign of ownership. But I really do think the option would have been there to keep him. I think, they did take a look at it, and he would have let them. So I think that's probably, Glenn's not going to say it, but Glenn also makes a point of praising Woody regularly in public. And I think, that's kind of like, was probably a reason that Glenn was comfortable taking this job, because he had a past relationship with Woody, and he asked him, or made sure that he wouldn't be involved. Now, like you said, that could always change, but I think, with the force of personality, it's not like Woody's not around. Woody was at, OTAs, he was at minicamp, but it's different. It feels different. And I think it's reflected in the team's decision making. Even this, that they had like such a quiet off season, and that they were kind of allowed to, when they still clearly have expectations to win now, from the top. Like, I think that shows you that these guys are running the show the way they want to, and that's why this might be a big year for them, because they're going to have to prove that they can be competitive, even though on paper the roster is not as good as it was last year. I don't think that's arguable, but I don't think that doesn't mean they can be, better than people think.
We'll talk more about this roster with Andy coming up. If you have a question, write it in. Super Chats will cut the line. I also want to share that we are doing another daily raffle. End of the show, I will give one lucky listener a signed Vinny Testaverde jersey. To enter, gift a channel membership or send in a $10 super chat or higher. Dominic is the first to do it. He did it before I even announced it, because I shared on Discord before the show. I was giving away a Vinny T jersey. Dang, got to throw in for my all-time fave. So, Dominic, you're in the raffle for 2. And I'll say this, the first person to gift 5 memberships or more will double it. So if you gift 5, you're in for 10. You give 10, you're in for 20. One of every Jet fan's all-time favorites, Elmont, New York's finest, Vinny Testaverde jersey. End of the show. We'll give it away. And if you gift for that, you're automatically entered in the Joe Namath signed football, Darrell Rivas signed football, and Wayne Corbett signed jersey raffle. So good luck. to everyone out there, and appreciate you guys continuing to support the show. You brought up the roster, Andy, because I agree with you. I think in a vacuum, last year's team, especially if you count the addition of Devontae midway through, they were a better team. But it's hard for me to fathom this team not being significantly better coached, especially I don't think Saleh was a great coach, but they went from maybe being a poorly coached team to a team that wasn't coached with Ulbrich. Just your thoughts on just how big coaching can be, because there's a lot of questions on the offensive side of the ball, whereas on defense, I feel great about Wilkes and Glenn being a defensive guy as well.
I think Tanner Engstrand has been impressive from when I've been in the room with him, and that's only been once so far. But he's definitely a sharp guy. He definitely has, the command of the belief of the guys on the offense. You ask Breece Hall about him. You ask Garrett about him. Ask Justin Fields about him. Again, another guy with a clear vision, and obviously Glenn was with him in Detroit and wouldn't be staking his entire. I mean, if you're becoming the Jets coach and your defensive coordinator who's never had head coaching experience before, the hire that kind of makes or breaks it is your offensive coordinators, and Glenn knows this guy, so it shouldn't be a surprise that he's on the ball. How it's going to translate to game day, again, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think coaching can be huge. I mean, when you go back and look at last year and what happened, Jeff Ulbrich was still running the defense, but added all these responsibilities, and all this stuff started slipping on defense. And I don't think that was a coincidence. And you could argue for the last two years they didn't really have an offensive coordinator, and you get halfway through last year, not even halfway through last year, and Garrett's frustration has completely boiled over. Breece Hall is talking about a crisis of confidence and how he feels overwhelmed with the blitz pickups and how it gets him antsy. I mean, this is a third-year guy saying stuff like that. That screams coaching, and then that doesn't even get into all the mind-numbing penalties that we saw in the field and how it just seemed to get worse as the season went on. So, yeah, I think that can be a huge thing. I also think this team, and again, it's hard to see at this early stage, but something last year's team was missing was they did have a lot of really good character guys in here and guys that got along, but it was almost like there were too many good guys in the locker room. There wasn't somebody who was going to get pissed enough when they needed to be. Everybody was deferring to Rodgers, and then you got nobody really stepping up and taking charge. And Rodgers as a leader, I wasn't a fan of him just because he was hypocritical. He wasn't like this monster in the locker room. He wasn't like a guy who actively hurt the culture. But if you're looking for him as a leader of a young team that needs to learn how to win, he's not going to vocally take you there. He's going to say a bunch of stuff, but he's also going to contradict himself, and you're going to try to figure out what to take seriously or not as a player in the locker room. And it just wasn't a situation that was good. I think first of all, Glenn is not going to sit around and take it if they're losing. He's going to say what needs to be said, and they'll have some nastier guys in the locker room that can do that. And I think that's going to be important. I think John Simpson was the only guy in the team last year who kind of had that edge, and obviously Garrett Wilson, but he's still young enough where it kind of was, especially once Devontae came in, it wouldn't resonate the right way. So, and then you see guys like Sauce and Garrett stepping into a leadership position in their fourth year. I think all of that's going to help when they hit adversity. And I think if you go back to last year, I can't think of a team I've ever been around that handled adversity worse than that team. And I think that started all the way from the top to the bottom of the roster. And I think this roster will be better equipped to handle that. And that's why I think they'll have more wins, and I think their talent will mesh together better. And also what they did with rebuilding this roster or rebooting this roster, they've got a bunch of guys who have done it before but didn't do it last year. That you could say that's risky, but it's putting the challenge on the coaching staff. It's putting the challenge on the players. It's a situation where you can see some of these guys are going to get back to what they were or better. So some of them won't, but I think that's admirable. And again, I don't want to go overboard by praising a coaching staff that hasn't done anything yet, but I do think that's different and cool that the coaching staff is putting it on them to make this work.
I think the biggest encapsulation of what you're talking about last year is Devontae Adams is on the team for 10 minutes, and he's giving this like emotional post game speech to the team after the Steelers game, and it's like, what? Like, where are the leaders on the team that a guy who's been here for 10 minutes is calling out the environment and basically saying that the energy level for the team is terrible in a game that was basically a must win that night, where they needed to essentially save their season as it's starting to spiral. And it was just a brutal collapse in that second half. Just everything about last year, just I was disgusted by it, as every Jet fan was. And I do think with Glenn, a lot of that is going to change. And you said something interesting about Sauce and Garrett, year 4, taking a bigger role, taking a bigger leadership role. Your thoughts just on that, Andy? And then obviously the question about their contracts, your thoughts on whether or not they will get deals done before the season starts.
I think just because of what they did with the roster, and I think this was by design, those guys have to be more of leaders this year. And I think that was, even guys who are older and are going to have to step into bigger leadership roles like Quincy and Quinnen, and you can see them doing it. Like Quinnen was great with the media or very early in his rookie season. Something changed. He's been intentionally not great with us. And all of a sudden, Quinnen was like, rookie Quinnen when we talked to him earlier this year. And I think that's because he knows that's part of his responsibility is to be there and take, the heat or speak for the team because he is like a key guy. And, I don't know how we've only talked to, each of these guys once. So it's kind of hard to see it and relate to it. And I don't want to relate everything because I think there's much more to being a leader than speaking to the media. But I can only give it to you from the very limited window and access that we have right now. And, Garrett and Sauce, like Sauce talked about it the other day, like how it's weird that he's now one of the older guys on the team. Now he's still only 24. So he's not old, and he had to check himself and remind himself, I'm still really young, but he is now going to be, put in this position where you got younger guys, even at his position, coming in, looking up to him, asking him, how it's done. And, same with Garrett. And Sauce talked about how, like, when they came here together, drafted 6 picks apart, in 2022, how they wanted to be, the foundation and the foundational pieces that turn this thing around, and how they still talk about it before practice, to make sure that their head's in the right space. And, I think that bodes promising for both their future. I mean, I think it's no question that an extension is going to get done with Sauce. I think there's no question really an extension is going to get done with both of those guys. I just am unsure if it's this year or next year. If I were the Jets, especially with Sauce, I would want to get it done this year. But then if you're leaving one on the table, does that become a problem? It would probably be better if they do it together. But, outside of, a few select cases, it's not often that guys get an extension after 3 years. And with Garrett Wilson, especially at receivers, it's not often. And Garrett Wilson, I'm sure he views himself as, a top 5 receiver, but he hasn't had those numbers yet. Now, I think he has all that talent and can do it too, and has been in a bad situation. But it may be a tough negotiating situation if he's wanting that kind of money and it's not there yet. And it may, like, I don't think it's going to be an issue for either of these guys if they don't get a contract before the season. But I think there's some complicated dynamics there. Sauce talked last week and said that, he's encouraged that his reps have been talking to the team and he feels good about it. Didn't want to talk about anything specific. So, I mean, I think the possibility of it getting done imminently is there. But I also think it could drag out, and I don't think that's necessarily like a nightmare situation. There are some logical reasons for it to drag out. So my gut feeling is that something will get done before training camp with both those guys. I think they have the cap. They have some cap space. I don't know how much exactly at this point, but they would have the cap space to do it, and restructuring another deal or doing another extension would allow them to free up more. Why else take the June 1st on Rodgers and spread some of that cap if you weren't going to use it in free agency, is the way I looked at it. I think that may have been a tip to what they're doing. But so, yeah, that's why, like, my instincts tell me it'll get done before July 22nd when they report. But I don't think it's like a situation that you have to be worried about, them not wanting to be here. Of course, with Garrett, there's always that worry if it's another really down year and a discouraging year, it might be, too much because he's clearly taking the losing hard. And I think that's kind of that concern there. But with Sauce, I don't think, I think Sauce is pretty well bought in. And if we take Garrett at his word, he said he wants to be a Jet for life too. So I think as long as they show some sort of progress this year, it won't be a huge issue if those extensions aren't done.
The
But
risk
it will
of
cost more.
yeah,
That's the thing.
100%. That's actually where I wanted to go next, because if they wait on Sauce, and let's say Aaron Glenn coaches him up and he's back to what he was his first 2 years, first team All-Pro. That's 3 first-team All-Pros in 4 years. Forget just trying to get a penny more than Derek Stingley. We're talking about a guy who will then completely reset the market, and it will cost you a lot more. And I just think the best teams in the league get ahead of it. Like, at the bare minimum, we know Sauce and Garrett are very good football players who want to be here. I think it makes sense. Sign them both for the message it sends to the locker room, message it sends to the fan base. Like, to me, logically, it makes sense. Like, maybe Garrett Wilson's not a top 5 receiver ever, but you know what? He's pretty damn good. He's had 3 straight 1,000+ yard seasons on the Jets, who never have a quarterback. So, like, that's a guy I want to keep and make happy. It's not like you're paying a quarterback a lot of money. Now you have the cap space and the cash to do it. I just think logically it makes too much sense to not do it now, given how they've operated, as you brought up, already this offseason.
I'm completely with you. Like, I would get it done now. I think it could end up, you get Sauce. Sauce already, like you said, has an argument to be paid better than Stingley. And if he gets back to where he was at, like you said, it's going to reset the market. It's going to be, I don't even know what it would approach, 35 million a year. I mean, that Stingley's at 30 a year. So, and then when you watch the receiver market, it's gone up exponentially recently too. And, it could end up looking like a discount if Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is going to take a step forward just because of his chemistry. He's gonna have a quarterback that he has chemistry with for the first time in his career. I mean, that's undoubtedly true. So I think getting it done now would make sense, but we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. It makes perfect sense to get it done now.
Andy Vasquez is our guest, covers the Jets for NJ.com. Follow him on Twitter. Reminder, if you're tuning in late, Vinny Testaverde signed jersey to one lucky Asmaniac at the end of the show. First person to gift a membership of 5 or more, we double it. Right now, Eli is the next Asmaniac in the raffle. He says, love Vinny, but I need the Revis football. I'll tell you what, Vinny, you got a chance at that and the Vinny side jersey, but you're in our weekly raffle for 2 as well. And you brought up Garrett and the chemistry with Justin Fields. You're at the OTAs that are open for the media. You were at all 3 of the minicamp practices. We keep hearing great things about what Garrett Wilson has been doing on the practice field. Your thoughts on the type of year he could have, and then just the seeming commitment that Engstrand and Glenn have said publicly about getting the ball to Garrett. Just your thoughts on the type of season you believe Garrett Wilson can have.
Yeah, I think, he's going to be unquestionably the guy. I think that's going to come with some problems with defenses keying in on him. But if Breece Hall is also a good candidate to get back to where he was. I know he did not have a good year. I think the most disappointing year of anybody last year, which is hard to choose from. But it's just because, he had shown so much coming back from the torn ACL. I think he was 4th or 5th in the league in yards from scrimmage, and he wasn't 100% for half the season. And then last year, he's 15th in the league. Didn't really have much of an impact, made a lot of mistakes, and didn't run through contact. And I think a lot of that can be, attributed to coaching and being discouraged and just not mentally right. And he was also hurt and playing through another knee injury for the last, several weeks of the year. So I don't think he's like lost his touch. I don't think he's going to not be able to recapture it. And I think he'll be able to be the guy that defenses have to pay attention to, especially as a passing weapon, because he's he's their second best pass catcher right now. And if this offense is smart and, looking at this roster, they're going to get him involved. And I will say, not to call back to the past too much, but the previous offensive coordinator took him to like week 11, and he walked into the media room and said, Bree, I didn't realize how good Breece Hall's hands were. Well, Engstrand's already picked up on that, and we're in June. So I mean, I'm not going to say that's encouraging because it's better than the last staff because that's the bare minimum. But they know what they have in Brees Hall, so I think that can be counteracted. So I think he will have probably his most targets and his most yards, and hopefully, like I don't think he's had more than 5 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns in a season, and that would be where you'd want him to see where you'd want to see him take a leap is getting into the end zone. And just he's been standing out in practice because it's just he seems to make a play every practice, and it's usually like an effort play. Like obviously he has tremendous body control, tremendous athleticism, speed, everything you want, but there's like an edge to him. Like he seems ready to play right now in real games, and it's hard to tell. You can't tell. Like some guys benefit because of the lack of physicality in these, off-season practices, but it wasn't like that with Garrett. It was just like he was just getting to the point of catch every time. He was beating his man there. I mean, Sauce and him had some battles, and that's when, he didn't get the ball sometimes, but when he was matched up against pretty much anyone else, he was dominating, and Fields was obviously looking for him. So yeah, I think that's where you see him taking that next leap, and that's while he's adjusting to a new offense too. So I think that's encouraging that he seems comfortable enough with the offense already. And I know Tanner Engstrand said he's looking, for some different things out of Brees and the route running and having more precision there. But that that Garrett's still finding a way to make these plays. I think that's encouraging and an indication of what he's going to be during the season, just ready to play from week one.
Barney with a question for you, Andy. He says, Andy, Lazard, Corley, and Gibson, are they all still on the Jets week one?
I would say no. I think Lazard is more likely to be there. I know people are tired of hearing this, but because he is a good blocker, and they need it. But like I get it. Look, I understand why fans are frustrated with that and with Lazard, but it makes sense to me also because I do think they're going to run the ball a lot this year. I think Corley and Gibson, this regime doesn't have any commitment to Corley, and if they don't think he can make an impact, and it's not great, that he was hurt, and Engstrand even mentioned the other day that he's behind the 8 ball and is going to have some ground to make up during training camp. I think that could put him in a position to be a casualty, but like I think he'd have to have a bad camp. I think Gibson, there's Pritchett showed that he flashes a returner. We don't really see that during this time, but Banjo said that Pritchett flashed. We kind of know what Gibson is as a receiver, and it just hasn't been much. And Corley is still an unknown, still has a ton of potential, and we've heard Glenn talk about that. So I would say Gibson is the most likely to be gone, but my guess would be at least Lazard and probably 2 of those guys will be on the roster week one.
It's interesting because Corley right now banged up with whatever injury. The only position coach that Glenn retained from the previous staff is Sean Jefferson, the wide receivers coach. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for Malachi Corley. I've heard fans give opinions on both sides of that. I don't know what to expect from Corley. I mean, a lot of, or if not all of Joe Douglas's like day 2, day 3 skill position picks besides Brees Hall have not been any good. The receiver list is a joke, as you know. So I don't think much of Corley. And I think a lot of what they said Corley is going to be able to do for them. I mean, that's how they talked about Arian Smith, who they used a 4th-round pick on this year, and this regime didn't take Corley. So it wouldn't surprise me if both Gibson and Corley aren't on this team if you're telling me Lazard's going to be here.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. And I mean, we'll see. Smith seemed to be dealing with something at the end of mini camp as well. He was on the exercise bike, so there's a long time between now and camp, but it's just something to watch. Not exactly an encouraging sign.
How do you look before he got banged up? Because I had Nick Fario on the show, and he was raving about him making plays in some of these OTAs.
He made some plays early on in OTAs and kind of faded. I don't know if that was. I mean, we didn't get anything out of Glenn in terms of an injury. So I mean, he didn't make any egregious mistakes. I think that was a risky pick out of all the picks in the draft. Like I would take issue with that just because that's a lot of pressure on a kid who had problem with drops, and it's gonna be just a magnifying glass on him. And the second he makes a mistake in training camp, it's gonna become a thing. And it's not just us; it's just gonna become a thing. I think it kind of puts him in a tough spot, especially because he was projected by a lot of people to not be drafted until much later. But it's also kind of in line with what they do and betting on guys' talent. So yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. But he didn't like. I think he had a good first practice, maybe good first two practices, and you could see he's really fast. Like the dude is fast. He's going to be electric when he has the ball in his hands. Um, but again, I don't take a ton of stock in seeing he was working mostly against guys who were on the bottom of the roster too. So um, I want to see what he looks like in training camp when you get the pads on. And I also think he could shine even more there because if he can get clean after his break, he could be electric. And I also would love to see what he looks like as a returner because I know they're thinking about him there as well.
Kevin Tattoos is the first to gift channel memberships to the show. We're doubling his 5 raffle tickets. We're putting him in for 10. And at the end of the show, we're giving away a signed Vinny Testaverde jersey. Kevin, thank you.
We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Sean Collins Cruz, Austin Samsa, Ricky JJ2, Azuma 76, and Kalka all receiving channel memberships from Kevin. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Andy, just your thoughts on the offensive line in general. Obviously, Armand Membu was the pick there at 7. Your thoughts on how he's looked? And I keep reading from you guys about this quote-unquote center battle between Joe Tippmann and Josh Myers. I'm sorry, I don't buy it, but I'm also not there. I know you guys are watching it. Just your thoughts on this O-line and specifically the center battle as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're not supposed to report on who's at what position and with what lineups, but that's a pretty major change, and I'm not surprised that it's gotten out there. It hasn't been every practice. It's been alternating. I think they're just taking a look, and maybe they're challenging Tippmann. I mean, I think when you look at this coaching staff, when you look at what they said about Breece Hall and wanting him, not giving him the number 1 spot, like if they were trying to trade Breece Hall, that would be a great way to tank his value. It's not what you want to do if you're trying to trade a guy. You're trying to motivate him. They must see some sort of need for improvement in Tippmann, or want him to change something or do something better. And my guess would be that of the rotation and that we've seen on an offensive line, we pretty much thought was set. That would be what that's about. I'm with you. I don't necessarily buy it as something that we're going to see, but we'll find out soon enough in training camp because they can't hide the reps there. The only meaningful reps they get are in front of us and the fans, and no matter what a coach says about it not mattering who's on what team or who's playing with what group, it matters because this is their only chance before the regular season, aside from that 1 week after the preseason before the start of the regular season to really practice with these guys where they're going to be. So that battle will kind of play out in front of everybody in training camp. Yeah, I mean, I think overall you're asking an offensive line to learn a totally new scheme from a totally new coach. And there have been, like, Membu struggled at times going up against, very fast pass rushers like Will McDonald in training or in OTAs. I have a hard time. Like, first of all, he wasn't like so terrible that it was like get him off the field at any point. Like, and that's my big thing. Like this time of year is like that means something. If somebody is that bad, like that, it's a red flag. Look out for it. But if somebody is like super good or just struggling, like they're not in pads, and especially for offensive linemen, and they're not really, making a ton of contact. And you're talking about a position that's based a ton on leverage and about positioning your pads in certain ways to stop progress. I don't take a ton of stock in him struggling, other than maybe he's not perfectly on point with schematically what they're trying to do. And that's where you see some of the more egregious. And by the way, he wasn't the only guy who had some moments like that. But seeing him as an athlete, seeing him in drills, he looks like the real deal. And I think he's gonna get his chance in training camp, and I think he'll get the opportunity to show what he's got. But you know, in terms of, he seems like a good kid. He seems like he's bought in. I saw he seemed to be at every voluntary workout, and was obviously at mini camp, and stayed on the field the whole time. So from what I'm looking for at this time of year, that all looks very good to me. And um, you know, his coaches and teammates have been impressed with him. So now it gets real in July and August, and really excited to see them get the pads on and see if he can kind of translate some of that really. You know, he's definitely strong, and I just want to see what that looks like, you know, against other guys.
I was reading your story from a couple days ago on NJ.com about players who stood out during minicamp at OTAs, and I was surprised to see Jeremy Ruckert's name on there as a player that stood out. Your thoughts on him? What did you see from Ruckert? I mean, I'm a Long Island guy, so I'm certainly rooting for him. But at this point, you know, I was wondering if his roster spot was secure going into this training camp. Sounds like he had a good offseason under Glenn. Your thoughts on Ruckert going into year 4?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Same with me. I did a. This is embarrassing, but I'll admit it. I did a roster projection right after the draft, and I got an email. It's like, "Did you forget Jeremy Ruckert?" And I did. I forgot to put him in there, and that's because like he just hasn't done. I mean, I think he has 235 receiving yards and 17 catches, something in that neighborhood through his first 3 seasons. He did show at Ohio State a potential, especially in the red zone, for making plays and getting into the end zone. He had a high number of touchdowns for his number of catches. And you could see like Fields' familiarity and comfort with him right away. Like the first play of 11 on 11 drills during OTAs went to Ruckert. And I think it was like the first 2 practices like that. And not necessarily at the end of minicamp. I don't know if he stood out like at the end, but just the fact that like Fields was looking for him, Fields is comfortable with him. I think he's a guy that Fields is going to be looking for, along with Garrett, very quickly when things break down. And he does have good hands. I know he had a drop in a big spot last year, but he's proven he can make, you know, big catches. He's a solid blocker. I think all of that like points to him, and right now he's. I mean, I don't want to say. I would say a 2nd round pick ahead of him is probably the best tight end you would think, but he's the most proven tight end on the roster. That's not saying much for the depth of the position, obviously, but it's just the situation. So, yeah, I just think the fact that he was so involved after not being involved at all the last 3 years is a sign that maybe he can have an impact on this team. And, you know, he does have the skill set, the size, and the blocking ability and enthusiasm that would make him a regular on this offense. And given the situation, you know, we're bringing along a rookie, and, you know, it's him and Stone Smart is the number 3 tight end. There's going to be an opportunity for him. So when you match all that up, I think he had a really good spring, and because he just hasn't made an impact. And I think, you know, it's hard to believe he was a 3rd round pick, right? Like it's hard to believe how little of an impact he's had. And I mean, that's just been the Jets with tight ends for the last decade. But I do think there's an opportunity for him. And I do think, you know, he made the plays that were presented to him in OTAs and minicamp. So I think that's a good sign.
You brought up, of course, Mason Taylor. Your thoughts on his outlook entering his rookie year? And do you see any scenarios where we know the Jets want to be, you know, a team that's going to run the ball, maybe a lot more 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field, so Ruckert and Taylor are both out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you will see that. I think he's going to be on the field. I think he's learning a new offense, and, you know, there's going to be some growing pains there. But I really liked the pick because he's so young. He's already so physically, you know, ready for the NFL. You can just see him kind of being the guy in the draft who had the most tight end or most potential at the tight end position. So I think, you know, there's a lot there, and he obviously showed that he could be involved, find a way to fit in an offense where he wasn't the focal point at LSU. And I think all of that bodes well for him. He didn't particularly, to me, stand out during, you know, OTAs in a minicamp, but I don't think that's a big deal. I think he's going to learn and get his opportunities. And I think they'd be wise to work in two tight ends and have him involved a lot because, I think he can be a vertical threat, a red zone threat, and obviously a guy who is enthusiastic about blocking and has, the frame to be an effective blocker.
I think we've hit on Arian Smith during this conversation, Mason Taylor, of course, Armand Membu. Give us another rookie, if there is another rookie, that has caught your attention during the offseason program.
Malachi Moore made a really nice interception in one of the OTAs, and it was a play where like he was back, he read it. I think it was Brady Cook. He read it, came across the field and up, made a shoestring interception, and then rolled and took it for a touchdown. And that tells you that's kind of like the book on him from Alabama, that he finds a way to get involved, finds a way to make plays. And I think, especially at the safety position where, you got Cisco, you got Adams, but, neither one of those guys are like, if there's a younger guy who can push them, they're going to push them. So I think there's going to be an opportunity for him. I'm forgetting the cornerback's name that went in the right before Moore in the 4th round.
AZ Thomas.
Thank you. He also had like there was a lot of talk about his speed, but you can see how it works. He's very physical. He's got great footwork. I think he's gonna sooner than later. If there's an opportunity for him this year, he may get it. He may not, but I think that kid's gonna be a player. He just is very technically sound. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He heard all the chatter about his 40-yard time. He didn't like it. I love that. I love that he was salty with where he got drafted right after he got drafted. I think he seems to be like engaging his teammates, engaging Sauce, trying to learn. He stood out as well. And I think both those guys have a chance to make an impact this year, more than Thomas. But I think Thomas's time will come. And if Steven struggles at all, he could definitely push him for that second outside corner spot.
It kind of feels like AZ Thomas is like Aaron Glenn from 30 years ago, like as far as the mentality and the style. How I know Glenn was a lot smaller, of course, but the physicality that AZ plays with, like that is an Aaron Glenn corner to a T of what he wants in like this press man defense.
Yeah, absolutely, because it gives them options. It lets them, do something that we didn't see from the defense the last couple of years, which is blitz. When you can trust your corners to get that interference isn't the right word, but that resistance at the line of scrimmage and just, slow those guys down a tick. I think he's ready physically to do that already. And he, isn't going to get lost. He's going to have some problems with speed, but he's not going to get lost because, he knows what he's doing in terms of using his body to gain an advantage. And yeah, I think definitely. And you pair him and Sauce, I think you're going to see Sauce. That was really one of the most interesting things that was said throughout all of the offseason is Sauce said, I thank the coaching staff every day because they're putting me in a position to make plays. Like they're finding a way for me to make plays. They're not accepting like when opposing offenses, when the offense tries to take me out of it, they find a way to get me involved. And so I think that's going to be very interesting to see how they use Sauce. I think you'll see him traveling a lot more. But you could see other stuff too. And I just think it's going to be interesting how he uses all these guys. And like you said, the big physical guys, but also, with different skill sets. It's going to be interesting to see how they use all those chess pieces. And it'll be definitely, whereas the last defense, which had a lot of success, but I think they played more to keys, and that could explain why they had such few turnovers because they weren't playing the ball. They were playing, what they saw, at before the snap and right after it. I think they're going to be doing that, but also playing a lot more toward the ball or letting the ball dictate to what they do. And I do think that's a reason that they'll have a jump in turnovers. And this defense still has a lot of the parts that made it great. I thought, the engine was always Quincy. When he was playing with high energy, everybody else started flying around the field. You still have him. You got Sauce, obviously. You got Quinnen. Some concerns about who's with him inside, but you have all these pieces for this defense to get back to a high level, and you got obviously a coach and a coordinator who have coached defenses at a high level. So I wouldn't be surprised if the defense is one of the better ones, top 10 in the league this year.
Well, I've said this for a while. How many defenses in the league could say they have a first team all pro player at all three levels, right? Quinnen, Quincy, Sauce, Michael Carter's been a really good nickel. Jamie and Sherwood's an ascending young player who they saw the value in and wanted to pay. Jermaine's back. We'll see what he is, but he's still a really good young player. Will McDonald had 10.5 sacks last year. Like, there's some concerns with the safety, and there's some concerns maybe with Brandon Stevens. We'll see what happens there replacing DJ Reed. But, there's a lot of talent on this team. Plus, Wilkes is a respected DC. If this defense is not top 10 again in the league, I feel like they didn't get the job done, given how much talent is on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of, I think the low expectations and the question marks for the offense are warranted, although we've talked about they do have a little bit more there than they're getting credit for. But on defense, I don't see how you think this team is going to be bad. I mean, I think they have some, like you said, there are some questions and that could get exploited, and that I think that's where it's at. And I think there's a narrative maybe like that Quincy might not be what we saw a couple years ago. I don't buy it. I want to, I think he's maybe the most fascinating player on the field, and if they can somehow get more out of him and get him back to where he was, and again, a guy who could have come in feeling disrespected because a guy who's less accomplished than him just got overtook him as kind of the team's most reliable and trusted linebacker and got paid, and yet you see him at every voluntary minicamp, every voluntary OTA practice. You see him at minicamp, and you see him saying he's fully bought in. So I think, that's all a good sign. And yeah, I think the defense should be good and a real difference maker. I really do think they're going to find a way to take the ball away, and I think it's going to be huge for this team.
Ladies and gentlemen, a massive, massive super chat has come through the pipeline.
Get your ass off my super chats. Some of these are gifted memberships too.
Hey.
The hell with it.
JYB in the raffle for 20 entries, a $100 super chat. Vinny, put me down for the raffle. End of the show if you're tuning in late. Signed Vinny Testaverde Jets jersey. We'll be raffling away to one lucky listener. JYB is now in for 20 entries. Love to catch a live show and a live raffle. Andy, can you give us an under-the-radar player on both sides of the ball? Sorry if already asked. Perfect way to kind of wrap up the combo with you, Andy. Your thoughts on the question here from JYB, an underrated player on both sides of the ball that you've seen so far throughout the OTAs and minicamp.
I hate to do it, but I think Ruckert is kind of going to be a guy who does more than people expect this year.
I like that.
I just do. I'm gonna go all in on that one. I just think the recipe is there for him with the comfort with Fields, the fact that he's going to be on the field, the fact that defenses aren't going to be paying attention to him because why would they? I think he's going to be a factor in the red zone. I think he's going to have multiple touchdown catches this year, which would obviously be a huge step up for a guy who didn't do much his first 3 years. On defense, that's tough. I think, let me think. Yeah, I'm having a tough time on defense because I think there's a lot of known guys. I don't want to say, we've seen Will McDonald. We know what we got in Quincy.
I got one for you.
How
about Michael Carter? Because he was so banged up last year. But before that, he was an ascending nickel that we all were super excited about. How does he look this spring?
Yeah, he's healthy. He said that in February he kind of got back to 100%. He really likes what they're doing with the coaching staff. Dre Bly is here, and they're kind of working with the nickels individually, which is not something that we saw previously. And Carter said it's cool to have a guy in the room. Of course, I'll listen to this guy because he had 40 career interceptions. I want to know how to take the ball away. So Yeah, I think he's a candidate to statistically have a big year, and the fact that he's back 100%. I think the defense really missed having him last year because he's always underrated. People forget about him and how good he is. And when you look at when the defense really started to struggle, obviously he was hurt around the same time that Salah got fired. He got hurt in pregame warmups in London, but it did coincide without him being on the field, and I think that's a good choice. I was trying to think of somebody else, but I just most of the guys are known quantities. I don't know enough about the new defensive tackles to honestly say that from what we've seen. So yeah, I think thanks for bailing me out there, Jake. I think that's as good a choice as any, because I would have still been talking around in circles there, and I don't know that's not good podcasting and radio. So
All good. All right, here's a fun final question for you, because this is about to be your 10th season on the beat here, covering the Jets. What has been the craziest story that you've had to report on in your 10 years being around this football team that, oh, by the way, has not won more than 7 games in 10 years since the Fitzpatrick 2015 season?
I mean, it has to be something from this last year, but I can't, so many things happened that I can't even, it all blurs into one. I'll just tell you this. I started on the beat, and they lost their first game by an extra point. They missed an extra point. They lost by 1 to Cincinnati.
Yep.
The next week, they go to Buffalo. Ryan Fitzpatrick wins Offensive Player of the Week. Revis gets toasted. I was here for the end of Revis. Gets toasted, but they win. And then they go to Kansas City. And Fitzpatrick, coming off of Offensive Player of the Week, ends the game by throwing 6 straight interceptions on 6 straight possessions. And they were in the game until the second to last one. And that was a moment where I was like, what am I covering? I'll also say Gase's first few weeks here, they look great against Buffalo, but the kicker who they just traded for, I believe,
Vivek.
Yeah, Vedvik can't kick during warmups. Gase, who I know does not have a lot of fans in the fan base, but he was good to cover because he was funny and let us see that side of him. And I'll never forget after the game, he said, I thought he was good before the game. And then I went to warmups, not so good. And he said that in his first post-game press conference. And it was like, what are we doing here? And then the next week, Darnold gets mono. and it's like, oh my God, what am I watching? And then everything that happened last year. I think the craziest thing is Rodgers and everything that happened with him. I still can't believe that happened week 1.
Yep.
I still can't believe the Jets weren't ready. They thought that Zach Wilson was the answer, but didn't adjust the offense, all of that. But yeah, I don't have one thing that I can, nothing I can say publicly. There's been some behind the scenes stuff that's crazy and stories to tell, but yeah, those are the moments that stick out to me. Also, the coach getting fired when I was on my way to the airport in London was a nice touch. Because I had to go through customs before I could write or anything, and that was a stressful time. But yeah, it's been interesting, but it's really I really enjoy covering this team. Really enjoy the idea that I could be chronicling them turning it around, because it's gonna happen at some point. I don't believe in curses. I think you got to get the right people in. You got to do the right things, and it will get better. Is this the group? We'll find out together, but it's definitely going to be interesting. It's always interesting with the Jets, and it's my 10th season, so they're due for a winning season. So we'll see how. And the expectations are low, and usually that's when the Jets do well, when people do not expect it.
God, we're hoping. Andy, great to get you on the show. We will definitely have you on again soon. Once again, people can find your work, nj.com, but tell people anything that you want to plug here, where people could follow you on social media and all that, because I think Andy is one of the underrated, unsung people on the Jets beat. So I'm glad we could finally get him on this YouTube show.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm on X at Andy_Vasquez. I'm on Instagram. I've been bad about social media, just trying to a little bit of a cleanse, but I'm going to be getting back into it this year. Follow me on Instagram at Andy Vasquez, and on Twitter, like I said, our X at Andy_Vasquez. And yeah, all my work is at nj.com/Jets, and we'll have a bunch of season preview stuff. a deep look into Glenn and what he brings, and all sorts of other things leading up to the season and the challenge ahead of this group. So thanks for having me on, and thanks for letting me plug my work. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. The great Andy Vasquez with us there, talking Jets. Really good insight from him. And hopefully he gets to see a season of at least 8 wins. Because once again, that to me is the crazier stat. I've said this to people. And I said this on the first show today. It's bad enough that this team has not been in the playoffs since 2010. Longest playoff drought in professional sports. Haven't won a division title since 2002. Haven't won a Super Bowl since 1968. We understand all that. To not have at least accidentally gone 8-9 is insane. Like Daniel Jones and the Giants with Brian Dable and Shane in year 1 accidentally went 9-7-1. This team can't even sniff 8 wins. That's why, while I don't have the highest of hopes for this Aaron Glenn team, like the idea that they can't go 8-9 this year if they're competently coached, they fix the kicking situation, Fields is maybe a little better than we think, they get some injury luck, like it's not crazy. And maybe they can be better than that, but there's a lot of question marks there. Comments, questions, super chats, cut the line. 25 with a super chat for us. Would be really disappointed if we don't see a lot of 12 personnel. I mean, I think that should be something they tap into. It's not like they have these great receivers you're trying to get on the field. Andy's telling us Rutgers look pretty good during OTAs and minicamp. Get him on the field with Mason Taylor. Because we know Taylor's going to play. They invested the 42nd pick in the draft on him. So, 100%. Hey, real quick, if you bought a ticket for Jets-Panthers, you're locked in. However, the Jets did give us some more time to potentially add some more AsManiacs to the Jets-Panthers group outing. So if you want to join me, Nick Shine, and a bunch of awesome Jet fans in Section 129, the link is still live for you to buy a ticket or tickets for your group. We'll have info on the tailgate with Tailgate Joe and Lot E26 in the coming weeks. But once again, we still do have some tickets if you want to join us for Jets-Panthers. You probably have at least another week or so. But if you've already bought a ticket, you're locked in. And if you want a field pass, your spot is secure. This is for anyone else who's on the fence or maybe needs more time. You have another couple days. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Hopefully, we'll get as many people as possible for the Asmaniac group buy this year for Jets-Panthers on October 19th. All right, I'm going to get to your calls here coming up. Appreciate all of you. Rich says hit the like. He is right. Frank P says Jake just received 2 of the jerseys. Thank you. Frank, congratulations. Dixon writes in, nice NASA shirt. You ever been to the moon? I've been to the moon with Gary, baby. All right, and after Gary's scintillating call today, I had to rock the Nassau shirt. If you missed the first show, oh my God, did you miss a lot? To your calls we go. Open phone lines. I will pin the Gusbuster hotline link. It's actually already pinned, but I'll repost it for those who, for whatever reason, can't see it. First up today, Kyle Clifton. Kyle, you might be making salient points, but no one heard whatever you were just saying.
I said that it was nice of you to have Nate parentheses Nate as a guest on the show.
He kind of did have a little Nate in him. I like that.
Yeah. So, I'm really encouraged to hear that Ruckert is shown a little bit.
Yeah, that was cool. I had not really heard that from anyone else.
Right. I was expecting, because the one name I'd heard from some of the other content producers, I think it might have been Blewett, was Andrew Beck, the fullback, is maybe someone that is kind of flying under the radar. Maybe one of the better blockers on the team for a guy that might be in kind of the hybrid blocking pass catching role. So I'm interested to see if he makes the squad, if they're going to carry a fullback.
You know, that was Darren Muji's first ever transaction as a general manager. If Darren Muji is a Hall of Fame GM someday, that's a trivia question.
Yes, yes. I'll be knocking them dead in the tavern this summer with the. Yeah, I mean, but I mean the points about the defense, like it really is going to come down to whether they can fix the stopping the run, right? Like some of these guys that they pulled from some of the other teams that might be in heavy rotation next to Quinnen. I would have liked getting a true one tech in there, a guy that really, was a guy that you feel like you would be running away from. And I feel like we got guys that are a little bit lighter, guys that are, never really established themselves. And they all kind of seem like they don't fit as well, but Glenn knows better than I do. I'll admit that freely. So I'm looking forward to see how he makes it all mesh.
Me too. Glenn obviously knows a ton about football, but I just, for the life of me, I won't understand not drafting a single DT in a draft that featured the most amount of defensive tackles ever drafted. I don't know how the Jets don't tap into that with any of their picks.
Right. I mean, if you didn't feel like the value was great in the early rounds, I get it. And obviously they feel like they got great value in the third. They seem to like Mason Taylor. Right tackle was definitely a need for them. It's just that, like, when you get to the fourth, like, the guy who I think went right after Arian Smith, whose name Ty something or other, was a defensive tackle, was one guy they could have looked at for a rotational role. Like, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with Arian Smith again. I'm glad that he's shown a little bit so far, and we'll see what he looks like in camp. But that was a good debut showing for a first time guest. I thought.
There you go. You got an hour straight of Jets talk, Kyle. What's better than that?
Oh my God, I was in heaven. I'll talk to you soon, Jake.
Kyle Clifton checking in. An hour straight of Jets talk on June 16th. Find me a channel that's bringing you that. Ladies and gentlemen, more super chats. The big fella's demanding to be put in the raffle. He says, put me in the raffle. I think Aaron Glenn will have these guys ready. No more losing after the bye. I'll tell you what. You know who the Jets play after the bye? Carolina Panthers, baby. And the AsManiacs will be there. We'll put our undefeated group bye record on the line. The Jets have never lost when the AsManiacs have done a group bye at MetLife. Undefeated. 1-0. I'm like also 99% sure that's the game after the bye, but that might actually not be true. It is not true. Never ignore that one. They might still win the Carolina game, but the game after the bye is Cleveland. I got my teams that start with the letter C confused. So never mind. Ignore that. But I still stand by them winning after the bye anyway. Aaron Glenn's not losing to Shedeur Sanders, all right? Big fella, I got you down for 5. Daz, across the pond. Get me in the raffle. Got a framed Berrios jersey in my office that needs replacing. A Braxton Berrios framed Jets jersey. Yikes. You know, if Alex Earl signed something for you, Daz, that'd be worth more than the Berrios signature for what it's worth. Jets worldwide. Wide. In the raffle for 5. Herm, Bowles, or Glenn, who has the most first-year confidence from the team/fans? I mean, this is a tough one because when Herm took over, he was replacing Al Groh, who was the Jet coach for a year, and they were 9-7. And there were a lot of good players that were already on that team. So I think it's different. Bowles was taking over the end of the Rex Ryan scenario, right? They were a 4-win team, Rex's last year. You had major uncertainty at quarterback. And Glenn, I think people are excited about Glenn, like the Jets fans that saw him play. Like, we're all like the hire, but I think a lot of us also, while we might be excited for Glenn and are cautiously optimistic, it's also like been so long since they have been a good football team. It's just tough to believe it's going to be different, right? Another first-time defensive coach, first-time offensive play caller, a bit of a journeyman on quarterback, right? Third team in 3 years for Field. It's a lot of unknown. But there is talent on this team. But I think the answer is going to be Herm, because let's remember when Herm took over, the Jets were 3 seasons removed from playing in the AFC Championship game. So I think it's probably Herm of these 3. If you gave Rex, I think it's Rex, because Rex's first press conference, my God, right? And that team in 08 was good. Favre just obviously got hurt. They were 8-3 before the injury. But Rex wasn't an option here, so I'll say Herm of the 3 choices. More of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now on the Gusbuster Umbrella Hotline is a man who's worked hard today. We know one thing is for sure. He did his laundry. Other than that, though, none of us have any idea what he has been doing all day.
You know what time it is? A beach breaker, 666. I'm gonna take my fist and shove it up your ass, and then he gotta go.
Got a headache in the teeth and then into the eye.
You have a headache in your teeth.
Yeah, what? Yeah, I've never had that. I haven't had that in a while. And also got a headache from the teeth all the way going right into the bottom part of the eye, like right down here in the eye. Not good. And I also found out my sister-in-law has MRSA. I've never heard of any kind of disease like that. I looked it up and went, oh, no. I can never get a goddamn break. You know what? Never get a break. You know what? I feel like Ralph Hunk of the Yankees just going, can you give a guy a goddamn break? Not today, Jake. No, just go to another caller. I need time to relax a little before I blow a gasket. And you don't want to hear me blowing a gasket. I don't need that today.
Let's just take a deep breath, Beast. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in.
Oh.
Breathe out. Things are going well, Beast. You worked hard today. You did some laundry.
Oh, no, not just laundry. Extra weeds, and then getting all the garbage out of there. And then on top of it, and then on top of it, I'm going to be cooking up some chicken. And then I also got to make some appointments for some other things as well.
You had a great Father's Day with little Joey?
Yeah, he's doing good. I gave him his exercise, his rub of the day, and I had a bitch at the USPS because my mail's missing. My mail is missing.
What do you mean it's missing?
I've checked my mailbox. I've also asked questions like, excuse me, where's my power bill? Where's my gas bill? Where's the other stuff? Where's my mail?
So Big Fella says, did the package come? I'm guessing the package
not yet. I've been keeping my eyes on it, and I will get on USPS, and I will tell them, you either better do your job, or I'm going to be on your ass.
Hey, Beast, I got a medical expert on the line that's here to talk to you. PBM joins us. Hey, Mike.
I've had MRSA. I haven't had MRSA before, but I've had staph. MRSA is a type of staph. It's just very antibacterial resistant. But she'll be okay as long as she's getting help from a doctor.
Well, I've never heard of MRSA, but I mean, I looked it up.
It's not MRSA. It's pronounced MRSA. It's a staph infection.
Oh,
it's a bacterial resistant. It's like a very serious thing, but as long as she's getting care from a doctor, she'll be okay.
I've never seen nothing like. I've heard of some crazy stuff like this, but not this kind of crazy. I'm learning about this, but it's like, what the hell world is this? Are we living in now? What are we living in? mean, we got all these.
It's an infection. You know, like a skin to skin. You know, I got it because of wrestling. That's when I got it. But I don't, it's,
Whoa,
I think we live in a good world. Whoa.
Oh, Beast,
well,
did you get my stuff? I sent it to you by accident.
It's still here, and he actually likes those toys that I gave him for the party. He was playing with him. He's like,
no, dude, I ordered deodorant, some honey, and what else did I order?
Oh,
Gorilla Glue.
That's here. That's here. It showed up over Saturday because I was working outside, and I had a little trouble with the umbrella because my umbrella to the table. I don't know what the hell they did to it, but they did a cockeyed job putting screws in. I'm going, what the hell did you guys do to this thing?
You need a Gustbuster, Beast. I'll make sure Steve Asman sends you one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna need more than a Gustbuster. I'm gonna need more than that. You think I look like an idiot? It's called, excuse me. If you cannot fix an umbrella or do anything correctly, then I don't know.
Beast, you won't need this umbrella to ever be fixed. It's got a lifetime warranty. It's unflippable, unflappable, unleakable. You watched the U.S. Open yesterday? The guy who won, guess what umbrella he's using? A Gustbuster.
If you want to buy the #1 umbrella in the universe, go to gustbuster.com and make sure you use promo code Jake25 for a discount at checkout.
It was good enough for JJ Spawn yesterday, Beast.
I know that, but it's not one of those. It's one of those that connects to the table. It's a connector to the table.
Oh, we're talking about a backyard umbrella?
Yeah, I need to get one of those. I need to get a new one because the one that all these gave me was crap. One screw, and then there's another hole. They did not put the screw in. I went, excuse me? What the hell is this? Are you kidding me? I bought a $25 crappy umbrella, and then you can't even put a second screw in? Oh, Jesus Christ. Idiots. Idiots.
Beast, how's your pain, by the way?
Let's see. Well, Sunday I had a little bit of a pain in the gut, but you know what took care of that? Those little cane patches that I got. Always remember, if you don't got a backup plan, you're shoveling shit upstream without a paddle, and you'd be in so much pain, you'd be like, yeah. But lucky those little cane patches work. I've had them for years, and they've actually been a charm. And I'm talking one of these fellas right here. Always be prepared. If you're not prepared, then you're a dunce or a dunsky. But I want to move on to the next caller because I don't want to feel like I'm intruding the show and not being some kind of a self-servient, kind of an ass. So not to be rude, let's go to the next caller and let's move along, shall we? And in the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, move along. Move along.
Would you silence, or should I do one of these?
Oh, we'll move her along, all right. Yeah. What a call from Beast. PBM stepping up. Unreal. We got Mike's dog in there. Just tremendous content. Peter Castro demanding raffle tickets. Peter, you are in for 5. 11-6. Relax. Raffle, I want it. Peter Castro somehow has convinced himself that Justin Fields is the answer, and the Jets will go 11-6 this season.
Oh, shit.
I think that's why Castro's takes have been crazy, by the way. Ever since he got on the bike in the middle of Asmaniac madness. And he fell. I don't know if the takes have been working properly. Our guy Rick Kent in the raffle for 5. He's got a chance to win a Vinny T jersey at the end of the program.
Yeah, here we come, baby. Here we come. Here come the Jets, baby.
If you hear your name called, Rick Kent made you a channel member. Sharif, Inani, Kevin Hayes, DKL, Demon Kills, Form A7X, and Fonzie all receiving a channel membership. By the way, Vinny Testaverde is among our scheduled guests when we are live from the Marty Lyons golf tournament, Marty Lyons Foundation golf tournament on Long Island next month. Monday, July 14th, we'll be doing the show from there. It's in Westbury on the island. And we'll have Marty, Joe Klecko, and Vinny all on that day, among other guests. Stay tuned for more. But I'm very excited. We'll have an opportunity for AsManiacs to make a charitable donation to Marty's foundation. We'll have a QR code on the screen when we're doing the show for people to donate. Raise some money for kids with terminal cancer. Marty's had his foundation forever, so that'll be a lot of fun. Black Gypsy in the house. He's a channel member, and he just gifted a channel membership. Bang! Bang! Black Gypsy, your membership went to listener Atticus Hamilton. Appreciate it. We'll get you down in the raffle as well. Now, the question when we have Vinny Testaverde is, Vinny, what was it like to take a shower next to Neil?
I went to the Jet Golf Classic Monday. We all go to the locker room and everybody's showering. There's a line of guys. And who gets behind me on the line but Vinny Testaverde?
Oh, God.
And I said, boy, Vinny, we could have used you last year. You know, Vinny, winning it in New York, is there anything like it? He goes, absolutely not. I go, are you looking for big things this year? He goes, yes. I go, how do you think Aaron's going to react coming off the Achilles? He did say that he's going to have some rust. He goes, look, it's going to be a little difficult in the beginning. They should rely heavily on the run the first couple of games.
Neil's the best. I get such a kick out of Neil. I think he's so funny. I actually met a listener at the DiPietro Rothenberg Mets tailgate last week that I was at with ESPN New York that grew up with one of Neil's sons. And was telling me all these funny Neil stories from when they used to watch games. He's like, I would feel bad for Neil because he's so positive. He loves the Jets so much. And we'd be there watching the games and we'd just see how the losses just crush him. That's what one of Neil's son's friends told me last week. We will definitely get into it, though, with Vinny. What it was like to shower next to Neil. Unreal. More of your calls right now. A couple of legends on the line. Thunderlips is next. What's up, Thunder?
Jake, what's going on? I used to be the man at my house. I used to have respect. I used to have the upper hand. I have no hand now. Ever since Thursday, ever since I called in to Beast Breaker's baby Joey's birthday party, I've been a running fucking joke at my house. My wife blew up my spot, told all the kids with my 20-year-old visiting when I put this in a Discord. I was like, everyone off their phones, nice family, everyone's on their phone. And she's like, you're the one calling in to a hamster's birthday party during our kids' baseball game. So now every time I use my phone, my 13-year-old's going, oh, what are you watching? A hamster's birthday party right now? I'm a fucking joke. I got to get back to hand. I got to, it's like a Seinfeld episode, but it sucks,
Yeah.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? It's a tough it's a tough thing to explain. Now, real quick though, Thunderlips, have some respect for the animal. All right, his name is Little Joey, not Baby Joey, and he's a guinea pig. Okay.
Well, I corrected her. I told her it was a guinea pig. I think of kangaroo when I think of Joey, so I think Baby Joey. It just clicks into my mind. You know what I mean? But it's like you try to support someone and have fun, and then you get shit on by your family for 4 days, and then whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I'm loving having all my boys back. It's like the house. I don't know. It just feels complete again. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just wanted to call in and tell you I'm getting shit on. But anything for the show. You know what I mean? So whatever.
Well, it's kind of ironic because you went out of your way to actually take a shit on Charles' show, which was a tremendous job out of you.
We won't tell my oldest son that. I'm trying to keep some atom of respect in this house. You know what I mean? While he's visiting. Yeah. When I came on before, I actually thought that was Nate. I was like, I think because Nate has that like red beard and his eyes, just not to be gay or anything, his eyes like pop when you see his face. You know what I mean? Like, not that I'm looking in his eyes and
it's Pride Month, Thunderlips, where you could say whatever you'd like.
Yeah, Nate, look in those eyes. No, don't look in my eyes. Then it's then it's gay. But anyway, all right, I'll let you go.
Ladies and gentlemen,
talk to you later, brother.
Thunderlips.
Having some barbecue chips. Hello, Thunderlips.
What's up, Charles? Oh yeah, take us around. Let me see.
This is my table. This is my fridge. This is my my bed stuff, but I had to get a new mattress. This is the couch I've been sleeping on. This is my television, my cable, my Xbox, my rich one. That was toilet paper. I saw that.
I don't know what you're talking about. A little bit of corn. But hey, congratulations on the house. I'm gonna wash my hands and I'll call back. I'll be back.
All right, no problem.
Charles. All right, no problem. Vinny Testaverde, jersey giveaway. End of the show. Get the membership if you want one. Or send in a $10 super chat for 2 raffle tickets. On that note, more of your outstanding phone calls on today's show. Joining us now on the Gusbuster Umbrella Hotline is none other than...
He's pointing. Garrett Box, point at you. Garrett Box, he point at you. Garrett Box, I'm pointing. I'm pointing. Box and 3. I'm pointing. I'm pointing. Garrett Box, point at you. I point.
What's up, Jake?
Hey, Gary.
The braids should be back tomorrow. I have an appointment at noon to get the braids back with Mimi.
This is good.
Yeah. It's been a while. I've been meaning to do it. She's been busy. She's been booked. I've been busy. But we finally got on the same page. So I should have the braids back tomorrow. So I know that you're trying to troll me with that shirt.
What do you mean?
I know. I was just going to ask you, did you take a field trip there in 6th grade or 9th grade? Did you take a field trip there? No. Did you get that from your time in Houston? Is that what
I lived in Houston. I lived in the Space City for 6 years almost. And I respect the achievements of NASA.
Yeah. If I was the president, no more money from them until you admit the truth. Not another dime until you admit the truth. That's just me.
What's the truth?
I know
the moon landing was real. It happened.
What if you get there and there's like a bunch of people living on the moon and they're just like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, we live here. Get out of my house. Like, what if there's just people chilling, living on the moon, right? Like, it's possible. Why wouldn't that be possible? I mean, we would never know because we've never been there, but I know you're trying to. I don't even have a take. But you kind of irritated me, and then you really set me off with that shirt. And I know that's
Eli writes it, Gary's, whose right should we take away now?
Do you think children should vote?
No.
Okay, so we all think that there's a line in the sand of who and who should not vote. We just differentiate where that line is drawn.
Yeah, you should have to be a certain age to vote. I think logically that makes sense.
I wouldn't put an age limit on it. I would put other requirements on it, but we're both saying that not everyone should vote. We're just drawing the line in different places. So we fundamentally agree.
I believe women should vote. You're saying a woman is the same, a grown woman, an adult, has the same mental capacity of a child? Is that what you're insinuating?
I didn't say that. I look at people on an individual basis, not as a collective.
So you think women should have no rights to vote? That was your take earlier, but you're saying a child should?
So let me give you a for instance. So let's say there's a 17-year-old who's a taxpayer, owns a home, has a wife, has a kid, has an IQ of 110 or higher, and he just happens to be 17. Clean criminal record. That person should be allowed to vote over the 18-year-old who lives in the basement and doesn't do anything and has been arrested 15 times. The 17-year-old I just named should be able to vote before the 18-year-old. So I wouldn't necessarily put an age limit on it, although I'd put a number of other restrictions on it. Age wouldn't be one of them necessarily. If you check all those other boxes, I don't care how old you are, right? Like,
but under no circumstance is a woman allowed to vote in your eyes?
No, because the man of the house would make the vote.
What if this woman lives alone, pays taxes, makes a lot of money in this hypothetical ridiculous scenario you're outlining, is an upstanding citizen, no arrests? That woman, if she's 47, she can't vote?
No, because she's not the head of a household. One house, one vote.
But she's the head of her own household.
So her husband is she a widow, I suppose? Is this where we're going with this?
If she's single, who cares? If she's a woman,
no, you gotta be married with kids. You gotta be married with kids. Otherwise, you got no skin in the game. You got no skin in the game.
So why can a man vote? So I could vote, right? I could vote because I'm of
No,
age.
you can't vote. You don't have any kids. You don't have any skin in the game beyond you.
So,
right? Now you're just
you
voting for
only
yourself.
want people to vote who have kids. That is that.
Absolutely, 100%. If you have no kids,
God.
there's no legacy. If you destroy the country, you don't destroy it for the next generation. So who cares where you vote? You're only ruining it. You're ruining it for people who you have no involvement in. Once you have kids, you can vote. But if you have no kids, you can vote yourself whatever you want. And the hell,
Why is having kids the only way? Why is having kids the only way?
It's not the
you're
only
allowed
way,
to
but
vote?
it's one of the because you can just you can vote destroy the universe and it has no consequences on you beyond you. Right? You're not leaving it to anybody else.
Yeah, but how do you know? How do you know? How do you know you voting for the right? You're voting for the quote unquote right thing. It's an opinion.
Sure,
this is the dumbest conversation.
And if you don't have any kids, if you don't have a legacy, then you're not leaving your possible mistakes to.
What gives you the right to
down.
determine that I can't make an assessment? And
I didn't say you couldn't. I'm saying you have no skin in the game beyond yourself. I'm not saying you can't make the right decision. You're not looking. You don't
what do you
have.
mean I had no skin in the game?
You have. You don't have a legacy. Once you're gone, you're gone.
In this
You're not
hypothetical
leaving it to the
scenario,
next generation.
okay, Gary. In this hypothetical scenario, say I vote and I don't have kids. What if I have?
I don't think you should vote without kids because you have no
nephews
skin in
and
the game.
nieces? What if I have other extended family?
Then their
and
parents can vote. Then your brother or sister in-laws, they can vote, right? But
PBM
I don't
writes
think
in,
you
do
should
my
vote unless you
4
have kids.
nieces, Mike is married, doesn't have kids. He can't vote?
His sister or brother, whoever has the kids, can vote. Once you have kids, you can vote because then you have skin in the game beyond yourself. There's something more than you. You have a legacy. You have children who you're going to want the best for.
You're amazing. Gary
So-
writes in, Gary, should Xboxers who have had multiple concussions be allowed to vote? I know a guy.
I see what you did. If they can pass a cognitive test and an IQ test, sure. If not, then no. Being a boxer or an ex-boxer isn't going to qualify you or disqualify you.
Dave Brigga says, please take this idiot off the air.
That's the other thing, right? You come on and you put me on with Black Gypsy, and that's fine. That was fine. And then you say that I'm wrong. I've given you my opinion and why I feel that way. What was I wrong about?
I think people think your opinion is insane.
Okay, that doesn't make me wrong. That's fine, right? That's fine.
That doesn't make you right either, though.
But it doesn't make me wrong. You had me on a show. You asked for my opinion. I gave my opinion, laid out why I felt that way. And then you said that's wrong. Well, how's it wrong? You may not like it. You may hate it, but how's it wrong?
If you want me to get technical, sure. You're not wrong. Your opinion, though, is asinine. You disagree with that. The vast majority of people watching think you're insane.
That's good. That's good. If I appeal to the mass of the people, I'd be like the mass of the people. Not my goal. It's not my goal at all. I'm hoping the mass of the people think I'm stupid. That makes me feel better about
Mike
myself.
writes
Everyone
in, you
agrees
should have
with
to
me.
be able to drive to vote. What are your thoughts on this as someone who doesn't drive?
Okay. I don't. If you can make an argument, I'm not saying I should vote and no one else should. If you have a list of criteria and you can justify those criteria, then that's your opinion. Like that's fine. You're entitled to that. I'm not going to get triggered over it.
Should gay couples be allowed to vote?
If they can't have kids, so no, they can't have kids. So they've already missed that box.
What if they adopt a kid?
We're not going to get into this today. We're not.
What do you
we're
mean?
not doing this
If they
today.
adopt a child, how is that any
We're
different?
not. We're not getting into this. This is a ridiculous
How is that
question.
any
We're not
different if
getting
they
it.
are
We're not-
adopting
this is
a
this
child?
is beyond absurd.
How?
No.
If they adopt a child, it's the same concept by your logic.
We're not. We're not getting. We're not doing this. We're not getting in onto this. That's ridiculous.
It's the same thing.
No, it is not the same thing.
By
No,
your logic, it is.
No, it's not. Not by
Taking
my
care
logic
of a
at
kid.
all. That is not the same logic at all. At all. It's not even worth getting into the absurdity in that comment. That is something that big fella would ask. You can see the whole world, the whole Western world's been completely feminized, and then feminism runs the whole country. Like, it's in the air that we breathe. It's in the water that we drink.
Would you say that you're a big, strong, manly man?
I don't know. I mean, it's not something I give a lot of thought to. Why?
I received this tweet, by the way. I'm getting tweets all day after your misogynistic comments on the first show. This is where Gary's wrong about women voting. Rather than a family consensus, your spouse shouldn't even know who you voted for and vice versa. Problem solved. Just because you married to someone doesn't mean you can't make personal choices.
Well, I disagree with that fundamentally. I no longer make choices for me. I make choices for us. My self-interest I've thrown away a long time ago. Okay, I don't make choices for me. I make choices, the best choices for my family. I just fundamentally disagree with them.
Thunderlips is in the raffle for 2. Are Nate and Thunderlips allowed to vote, Gary?
Can you? Currently, yes. Currently, you and Nate can both currently vote. So can women. They can vote too, currently.
What are your thoughts on being compared to an Iranian leader?
I don't care. Do you think I come here to gain favor with the world? Friendship with the world is enmity with God. I don't care, right? Biblical Christianity is unpopular. Popular Christianity is unbiblical. I don't care. You can call me crazy. That's fine.
Indy Jet says you don't allow your wife to make choices.
If I choose to, she can.
Mr. Bonesy writes in, if Mr. Bonesy passed away and Joe Bonesy takes his kids, can Joe Bonesy vote moving forward with my adopted kids?
Hang on. So if Joey adopts your kids, yeah, I would say so. As long as he passed the other criteria, yeah.
So then what's the difference?
So basically, Mr. Bonesy's passing away. Joey, it becomes the de facto head of his household. So it's Joey, Mrs. Bonesy, and then little Bonesies. Am I getting this right? Is that what we're asking?
Right. So, but what is the difference then of a couple adopting a child?
All right.
The same concept.
Yeah, no, it's not the same concept at all. It's not even close to the same concept. Not at all. It's not even close to the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's an absurd comment.
You're a man of logic, or so you claim. It's the same thing.
I am a man. I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to get into it here. This is. I don't want to get your telestrike. I don't want to get you demonetized, right? So I'm just gonna let it be. But my answer would be, of course not. That's a ridiculous question.
To me, it's the same thing.
I don't even know where we're going with this. I don't. Where I came on to acknowledge that you're trying to trigger me. And clearly, it worked. Again, I took the bait like a moron. Right? I'm the fish that say, "Don't eat the bait. Don't eat the bait." Right? And I took the bait every time. I just
all because I'm wearing a NASA shirt.
And then you mentioned it again earlier. Yeah, I mean that's a part of it, but yeah, it's a part of the plan. I just sent to the hole by one of your dudes.
Gary, I'm very confused by you.
You're not confused at all.
No, I am very confused.
Not even a little bit.
No, but I'll tell you what. I am a capitalist at the end of the day. So we will see you later.
Now look what you've done, Gary. No more protection from the AsMANIACS. Had to pull you out of the chat and cast you down with the sodomites. Some time in here will feel like you've been run over by the lane train. You understand me? You catch my drift? Give them another 24 hours to think about it.
It's good, Jake. That's good. It's good. Well done.
I mean, Black Bowers is definitely like the greatest player in the history. I'm going to
enjoy the hole, Gary. Weege, we'll get you down in the raffle. It'd be pretty funny if Gary indirectly leads the Weege winning the signed Vinny Testaverde jersey at the end of the show. Oh my God, man. Gary, you are insane. I love it. I actually don't love that last takes that he's had, but he actually believes everything he says too. That's what's amazing. Big fella says, we just voted Gary off the island. That's right. He did. Man, what a moment. More of your calls right now. Papa Jet is next. Hey, Papa.
Hey, Jake, you got me?
We got you.
Hey, well, as far as voting, me and the wife have been canceling each other out our whole marriage. So it doesn't matter.
Gary won't like that.
Yeah. But I was listening to a little bit of the morning show. I had meetings. But I'm okay with at least letting Clemens go through training camp and see what Glenn can do. I know there's a lot of people that would disagree with that, but I mean, he did show promise his first year, so there's talent there. I don't know what happened the last couple of years, but I would like to see what Glenn can do with him. I think he's a type of player that needs a kick in the ass, and I don't think I think Sala was too soft. You know,
well, I mean, right now he's probably the starting defensive end until Jermaine's ready. So,
right, and part of that could be because the cupboard's kind of bare there, you know. And as far as players in general, my general rule of thumb is I like giving them at least 2 years. You know, like you're right, probably Watt and McGregor probably won't, you know, but I just like giving them 2 years. And that works both ways too, because I'm sure Tampa and Atlanta probably thought they had franchise quarterbacks the first year with Winston and Mariota, because they both had really good first years, their career backups, you know. So, and another thing with Dylan, you hear any updates, or is he gonna come back to his regular spot soon? Do you know, or
he should be on with us on Wednesday as long as he's feeling up for it. I was texting with him before. Dylan's actually in the chat right now. Dylan, are you good to come on Wednesday? We'll produce live on the air.
Okay. And Jake, earlier I was trying to sign up for a year for the Discord and Patreon, and it wasn't taken.
Are you currently a member already, or?
Yeah, but I was monthly.
Yep.
And then I clicked on edit membership, and I rolled the thing over for a year, but there was no button to hit like OK or anything. And then I went back thinking it took, but I kept on going back and it's not taken.
I can look into it for you. Maybe the thing was down today. Try again tomorrow. And if it doesn't work, let me know. And I'll see maybe if there's something on my end I could do to get you set up for that.
Okay. Well, that's all I got, Jake. Thanks.
Well, Papa Jet, good news. Dylan will be back with us on Wednesday. So he's feeling up for it. Let's see. There was a request I received from Charleston Jetsrube to ask Gary a question. Now, Charleston, Gary's in the hole, but you could ask your question anyway. Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, I know he's got daughters, so he doesn't think his daughter should ever be able to vote. I mean, I've got a couple daughters too, and a stepdaughter, and, you know, I kind of...
You keep the fuck out.
Charleston, call back when you don't sound like a robot underwater. Indy Jets joins us. A clean-shaven Indy Jets. Hello, Indy.
Hey, good evening, Jake. Hey, you remember a couple of weeks ago, I made the comment about calling Gary a narcissist, and that blew up. You made a great big poll over it, and I lost that poll. 53% of the people said, no, he's not. I wonder if that's changed, you know. And I love that comment he made. Sometimes I allow my wife to make choices. That's not allowing her to make choices. You're giving your wife permission.
Very misogynistic comment.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like every time he started talking today, it just got worse. This morning show was bad, and it went downhill from there. Where the hell's Allen? I think Allen would have better takes against the Jets than this whole women don't have rights. to vote. They don't have rights. It's almost like they used to talk about women. Children need to be seen and not heard. That's kind of how he talks about women. And I just it just boggles the mind that Gary is free. It's okay for him to think that, and it's okay for him to run his marriage like that, and that's great. If it works, it works. But to sit here and say, Jake, you don't have a wife and kids, so you don't get to vote. You are not mature enough. You have your own YouTube channel with 40, I don't know how many thousand, 40 some thousand, and yet you're not mature enough, and you have no skin in the game for a vote. I think that dementia is really not getting better. I think it's getting worse for him. That's all I got.
Indy, thank you. All you need to know is Alan is backing Gary, so I will remind the audience this is what we're talking about here. This creepo. Sad. Very sad. Open phone lines for those of you who want in on the conversation. If you're tuning in late, I promise there was a shitload for June standards of Jet Talk on the show. First hour, Andy Vasquez, first-time guest, been on the Jets beat for a decade. NJ.com, the Star Ledger. He joined us. And we had a good discussion on the team. At the end of the show, I'm giving away a signed Vinny Testaverde Jets jersey. Someone tell Neil to enter the raffle. If there is a raffle god, Neil will win this jersey after he took a shower next to Vinny last year. And called into our show to tell us all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Charleston Jethroop is back. Charleston, do
I
hear
sound
you?
like a robot underwater still?
There we go.
Perfect. I had to restart my phone. It was acting stupid. But no, I've got 2 daughters and a stepdaughter, and I know Gary's got daughters. So does he truly believe that his daughter should never be able to vote?
I think the answer is yes.
Wow. Okay. I just wanted to ask that. That's
He said that his wife would agree that she shouldn't have the right to vote. That's what he said on the first shift today.
Yeah, I don't know his dynamic in his house, but it just kind of sounds like she does what she tells him to do. And, Gary's got some of those old school ideologies and thoughts, and it sounds like he married an old school woman. Now, I do agree with him. I think feminism's gone maybe a little bit too far as telling women they got to go out and get a job and try to be a boss babe before they have a family. And then some of these ladies later in life realize they can't have kids because they waited too long. So, there's nothing wrong with the nuclear family. My oldest daughter is married and she's got a kid and she's a stay-at-home mom that works part-time. But then my youngest daughter, went to college and she works and, she doesn't have that goal. So I think they should kind of be able to make their own choice. I mean, it is 2025?
Yeah. Well, I think that's how most people look at it.
I mean, I love Gary's takes. And the one thing you got to tell about Gary, when he thinks he's right about something, the damn Pope, the president, nobody. Abraham Lincoln could be resurrected and nobody could tell him what the hell is up, You just can't change that man's mind. But I was just curious on that. Jake, as always, love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Charleston Jethroop checking in. Look what Gary has caused today. Unbelievable. Unreal. I can't say I'm surprised. We've had a lot of Beast and Gorman moments. Gary was I guess he wasn't a 1 seed. He was a 2 seed. But Gary was in the Final Four for a reason. Because love him or hate him, he gives you moments that make you go, what the hell is this man talking about? Right, Gary?
I'm in the hole. Someone paid good money to put me in the hole. I respect their decision.
How is the hole?
Say hi, Decker.
They put you in the hole?
They put me in the hole.
Yeah. Tell her why.
Because someone paid $50 to put me in the hole.
Because, Decker, you have no right to vote, according to your dad, when you're old enough.
Jake would put you in the hole for $1.
$1? It was 50. But if Jake wanted to put me in a hole for $1 to show, he could put me in a hole.
I
for
didn't
$1.
do it, Decker.
Put you in the hole for $1.
Your dad's
Where's
comments on women did it.
It's your policy. So, but it's fine. Do I look triggered? I got Dylan in the chat talking about my daughter, right? Like, do I seem triggered? Do I seem upset to be in the hole?
What is he saying about me?
I'll tell you later, baby.
That you have no right to vote, Decker.
Yeah.
When you turn 18,
I will
don't
pay
you
1 cent
dare
to vote
think
you
about
vote.
voting. Don't even try
1
it.
cent.
You're out of your
But
mind.
I'm not getting into it. I'm not getting into it. I'm not getting into it. I was put in the hole. Put me in the hole. I'm in the hole.
You want to go back in?
I'm not even sure who Weege is, but I respect his decision. There's a policy in place, and he paid $50 to put me in a hole. I'm cool with it.
All right. Say hi to the soundbites.
Now look what you've done, Gary. No more protection from the AsMANIACS. Had to pull you out of the chat and cast you down with the sodomites. Some time in here will feel like you've been run over by the lane train. You understand me? You catch my drift? Give him another 24 hours to think about it.
Amazing. Hey, if you want Gary freed from the hole, if you too hate women, $50 and he's out. Let's see. Comments, questions, super chats. They cut the line. Let's check in with a man who I'm sure will have a lot to say on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, let's say hello right now to a guy who's currently going by the name Global Beast.
I seen a funny comment saying something about Monopoly cards. As a matter of fact, I got a board game of Monopoly, 2 different versions, the 74 version and the 1985 version. Now, Jake, you've never played Monopoly, the board game, have you?
I played it many times.
I see. Man, oh man, oh man. I just had a good meal. Some good old chicken with a man sauce.
What meal number is this today, Beast?
What?
What number meal is this for you?
This is number 2 today. This is dinner right here. Good old-fashioned chicken and hot sauce. That's a sexy way to go. And tomorrow, well, I'm not going anywhere for a few days because we're having a heat wave, and my doctors have already told me no chance. Yeah, because I've had experience with strokes before. I'm not doing it again. I'm going.
What do you mean? They just told you not to leave the attic? They just said stay up there?
Yeah, just for a couple of days because I'm taking safety precautions because number one, I'm not gonna do what I did 4 years ago. I'm not doing that again. No.
So they said under no circumstance can you leave the upstairs attic in whatever house you're in.
Well, here's the thing, and here's the difference. You read the weather report. You also figure out what you're gonna do, and figure out if the conditions are good, then you give it a chance. If it's no good, then don't give it a chance.
What's the temperature in the attic? Do you have a good AC in there?
I have a Gold Star. Gold Star is one of the best ones out there. The second best one is GE. Are you familiar with GE? General Electric?
Sure.
I got a General Electric. It's a backup plan. It's a second good one. But this thing is a good godsend. And I also have one of the spinner fans that, oh, what a godsend that damn thing could be. It's a great good thing. And I'll tell you this, football camp is, I say 8 weeks away from the first game. I'm going to be opening Jets Grill in August, which means there's going to be a clean grill and there's going to be some surprises. I'm going to put on that menu this year. I might even throw a steak sandwich on there. A nice breaded Riccobenni's steak sandwich with all the perfect knockouts to it. And it could come either way. It can come either way. You can have peppers on it. You can have however you want it.
Black Gypsy says you just got to drink water, Beast, and wear a hat. I think you could go outside.
I got plenty of hats here, Black Gypsy. I got all the good ones that I got right off the oven, right off the bat.
So I don't think the heat is an excuse to not get any exercise and just be in your attic for a while.
I know this from experience because I'm not 25 anymore. I'm 41.
What about the pool? I thought you had a pool that you're going to go in.
I gotta wait. I gotta wait for somebody to get over here and to get it started. You gotta remember, patience is a virtue. Somebody said that to me thousands of times. My grandfather said it. Many other people have said it. I'm taking people's advice because I'm not stupid enough to do anything that rational and dangerous. I'm not stupid. I wasn't raised in a barn. I wasn't raised on a potato chip truck. And I sure wasn't raised in a circus tent. That's
You were
three
raised in
things
an
I'm-
attic.
Nope. Try a hospital was more like it.
I see.
I was born and raised in a hospital very well, and I'll tell you, my mother raised me to be a man, and I'll tell you this: they don't make men like us anymore. You know why? Today's men are cowards. You know, ever since COVID, look what COVID has done. It's turned everything upside down into a weird frenzy nowadays. We got apps. Everyone's on their phone. Nobody goes to the park anymore. Nobody wants to do anything anymore. It's a strange world with a strange society, and that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. People are however they want to be. That's the world for you. The world is a strange place. It's not filled with sunshine and rainbows. It's just filled with cold calculus and maybe different types of people. We got good people, you got bad people, and then you got goofy people, and then you got strange weirdos, and then you got goofy ones that like to rob banks and do goofy other things.
What do you think
as
of
well.
Gary's take, Beast? Do you agree with him?
Whoa. That guy is. He's in over his head. That guy is cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. I'd rather play with the cuckoo clock, or that. Did you ever get the toy fish when you were a kid? The fish, that young man. I would have loved to have had one of those toy fishes. Those were one of my favorites. But you know what? My mother couldn't afford it. But you know what? I think I could get one of those. But you know what? I'm enough about that stuff. I know we're near the 2-hour mark. I don't want to feel like I'm an ass. So you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna let you wrap things up and do whatever you need to do. And until next time, it's like.
Hey, hold on, Beast. I'm getting a call. I need you to take over. Hold on.
I'll let you do what you have to do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, does anybody remember the fish? The talking fish, the one that goes dun. Oh, you're gonna love. Oh, I love some of them fishes back then. Those were now that is a classic. You can't find something like that nowadays unless you go to eBay. But I'll tell you this: our boys are gonna do damn good because this year we're not holding back. We're gonna shut up. We're gonna fight. We're gonna kick every team in the nuts, and I'll make sure every team goes down 1, 2, 3. In the
Breaker 666. He's the man who would kick your ass, and then he's gabagoo.
Some salient points made there during that call, of course. Man. What a show this has been, huh? JD writes, in Beast thoughts are rational compared to Gary's. It's tough to argue with that one. Yo Home says, where is Gorman with the job update? Charles' absence is disturbing. Well, Nick Shine gave us the update on the morning that everything was going smoothly, that Charles had to run it by the job people in his life. His parents are going to get the Social Security card info tonight. And later this week, I think it will become officially official. Gorman will be a Burger King employee. And if you want to watch how that all played out live on the air, go to my Saturday show 2 days ago and watch in real time as Nick Shine took Charles from company to company. And it culminated with the BK job happening. Now, Charles, if you're out there and you want to call in, if anything I'm saying is not true, please feel free. But things are looking up for Gorman. Dana says, remind me which BK location to never go to. Come on. Charles will do a great job at Burger King. I believe in Chuck. Chuck was actually nice enough to send me the first look of him in the uniform for those curious. He looks like a seasoned vet already. So I'm very excited. Dave Brigga, Nick Shine is Vince Lombardi to Charles. Incredible. Mike Dems, which episode did Charles get catfish? I missed that moment in history and need to go back. Mike, it was my show on April 1st, the second show. It was the Sweet 16, Big Fella versus Gorman of Asmaniac Madness. And it was probably the wildest 5 minutes in the history of the show. JD says that Sauce signs before Charles. JD's not buying the deal. I think Gorman will work at Burger King before Sauce gets a contract. I believe that. Your mama's panties says, Charles with the extra secret sauce. No thanks. PBM, Charles going to be elite. Jets mess. Why are there so many out-of-work bums calling into the show? Hey, you watch your mouth. All right? We don't have bums that call into the show, jerk.
You get the fuck out.
Hey, Beast, what do you say to this guy?
I'm doing homework assignments. I'm trying to do my homework here. I'm trying to do some homework. It's not difficult. I'm trying to keep studying my shots. That's why they invented the thing called study. Can we get back to some studying, please? I like to study, but why are they out so many worker bums calling it? I don't know what to tell you, mister, but we have a different world now. We got a lot of people working. The stock markets are doing good. Things are looking great, except for the protesters. They're making fools of themselves. But on the good note, God is great. Things are good. Everything's handy dandy. We're gonna keep on punching and moving and grooving, and we're gonna keep that party alive. That's why we're ready. It's Monday. It's the start of a new week. We're gonna keep rolling. We're gonna keep going. And hell, I'll tell you right here from experience. You know what? There's also another thing that also happened 30 years ago. The very, very first Monday Nitro was held. I'll tell you which city it was held in. You know which one it was? Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Target Center. Yes. The very, very first one. And don't think I don't know. I got all the previews and all the reviews on that. I can read that stuff very much miles away. But enough about that. Let's get down to business. Let's get ready for football season because it is weeks away. Whoever we get first, you see this? Right across the eyes. I don't care if it's the Packers. I don't care if it's the Giants. I don't care whoever it is. Get your ass ready for a battle. You're in for a ride.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well said, Beast. I'm inspired. I'm so inspired that I'm ready to give away a signed Vinny Testaverde jersey.
It's time to announce the winners of the weekly Asmaniac Raffle. Let's spin the Jake Asman Show Wheel of Champions and find out which Asmaniac is winning an epic prize.
It is time to spin the wheel. Music, please. Thank you to everyone who gifted. A reminder that if you don't win, it doesn't mean you won't win later this week, because everyone who entered for the Vinny jersey is automatically entered to win the Joe Namath signed football, the Darrelle Revis signed football, and the Wayne Corbett signed jersey. So, it is time to spin the wheel of champions. Good luck to everyone. Thank you all for your support. I'm going to do a lot of giveaways until training camp because if you're a diehard Jet fan watching a Jet show in June, that tells me all I need to know. I'm going to get the best listeners, so thank you. Cannot say that enough. Here we go. One spin to determine a winner. Vinny T jersey. The winner is JYB. Shout out to JYB. He sent in a $100 super chat at the beginning of the show when Andy was on. Asked a great question to Andy, and he gets rewarded because this $20 super chat or this $100 super chat for 20 tickets is getting him a signed Vinny Testaverde jersey. JYB, appreciate you. Congratulations. John, nice try. I'm sorry. You sent in a super chat after the wheel was spun. But I will get you down, John, in the raffle later this week for 5. That's a tough break, man. I'm sorry. I just saw this. But you said it at 6:11, and we already closed entries, so it wouldn't have counted anyway. But JYB, well-deserved, awesome supporter of the channel, true Jets fan. Appreciate you a ton. Thank you all for watching. What a show. Thank you to Andy Vasquez who joined us. Really good stuff from him. If you want actual Jets talk, the first hour was straight Jets. So you guys will certainly enjoy that. We're back tomorrow with not one, but 2 great shows. Robbie Sabo will join us in his usual Tuesday morning spot. 10 a.m. Eastern is start time for that. So be ready for that. I will talk to you guys soon. And in honor of the 1-year anniversary of this historic music video, I end the show by playing this.
There's been a lot of you out there asking about who he be. Well, he's about to let you know.
He's Charles.
This rap is so hot, you'll play it on a loop. You'll never get the recipe for chicken noodle soup. Super a spider or even a bat. Got nothing on me or Bobby with his hat. Lady's gotta be a 10 if I'm gonna date her. Shout out to my homie, his name is Gator. I'm Charles.
To all you other guys trying to rap on Jake's show, got nothing on this guy and his flow.
He's Charles.
These bars be so hot, I'll get invited on Fallon. You know who won't? That hater, Alan. My comic book and movie things are so hot and wild. Since my last verse, Johnny had another child. While YouTube is blowing up, I'm doing my part. I excuse myself every single time that I fart. I'm Charles.
Jets, Yankees, comics, hip-hop, nobody compares when it comes to him.
He's Charles.
I see everyone on Jake's show trying to prop us. I'm the only one jumping over cars. Blows calls the show and he's always really loud. Shout out to Nick, you know he'd be proud. I don't like Zach or his family, they're Mormon. First name Charles, last name Gorman. I'm Charles, motherfucker.
You just witnessed the debut of a proud New York Jet fan and a Jake Asman production. Brought to you by the man, the myth, the legend himself.
I'm Charles.
And I just saw a big fella's tweet. So I'm 5'11", 180 pounds, and I wear a large. And you're telling me he's got me by 100 pounds, and he only wears an extra large?
Gary, why the fuck what do you care about what the fuck I'm wearing, bro?
I've got to, look, I'm a man of logic and reason. I'm 5'11", 180, I wear a large. You're 6'5".
Why does this guy care about what I'm wearing? It makes no sense. Why do you care?
You don't watch Curb Your Enthusiasm and someone says something like suspicious to Larry to kind of give him that look like, okay.
How is this suspicious, bro? What are you talking
about? 280. That's a big fella.
Dude, if I wore a 2X, it would be baggy on me because my body is different. Okay, not everybody's built the same.
I understand, but if you're 6'4", 280, that ain't all in your legs, bro. 6'4", 280 is a big boy.
I don't know why you give a shit what I look like. You got me a little upset right now, man.
I didn't mean to get you upset, big fella.
Gary, why do you make fun of Big Fella and his shirt? Maybe you're a weird person, a weird guy. A wiggle, beagle, beagle, deagle, deagle, beagle, deagle, deagle. Wiggle, deagle, deagle, beagle, beagle. Gary, you need to stop yelling at all your friends about Joe Douglas, and all of the Jet stuff. I mean, I am going to leave you for Bobby. Wiggle, beagle, 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 beagle. Just let your cornrows down and just stop it already with all of the fighting. It's not worth it. I love Bobby. Wiggle, deagle, 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 deagle.